now.
All right, we are live.
Very good. Desiree, you ready? Good. So we'll call this meeting to order. Public Works on Thursday, August 6th, 8 a.m. Virtual meeting due to COVID-19 pandemic. We've got some public comments, but you can see on the agenda where you can put those in for future meetings. First order is call to order and acknowledge that the press and public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Our second item is approval of previous meetings minutes. Those are in your packet. So if we can have a motion to approve, that would be great.
Make a motion.
I second it.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Citizens' comments. I know, Desiree, we have a couple. So Nicole, if you don't mind, I know they're both a little lengthy, but if you could read those into the record, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Our first comment is from Lawrence Milley, 105 Sparrow Drive. As I watched the IOP council meeting of July 28, I listened to the reading of comments from off-island non-residents complaining about beach parking. To my shock, a comment I wrote about the air and noise pollution from the waste and water plant, which was discussed at that meeting, was not read. I recall writing it before the new parking laws took effect and listened to council say they would read in the order they received them. Also, I listened to council members explain the need for a new wastewater plant because the one in Wild Dunes is in disrepair. Also saying they have toured the plant off the waterway and that it is all wonderful and does not produce noise or smell. That is false. I can produce a half a dozen people that say that comment is false. I have been awakened in the 5 a.m. hour many times from vacuum trucks, garbage truck alarms going off and diesel generators running. I have a horrible smell coming from the storage tank 10 feet from my backyard many times. This year, every day for a month, 3 weeks before 4th of July, and a week after you could not be outside my house and even smelled a foul odor inside my house. July 16th and 17th, they worked on the tank after I brought this up. The smell went away during the next week until the weekend. I texted both Chris from the water company and Jay from the sewer commission to come and smell it themselves, seeing how they both called me a liar and say repeatedly that it does not smell and does not make a noise at the 5 a.m. hour, even on Sunday. There should be a police report on file when I called the IOP police on Sunday morning, only to have the officer tell me that the water company can work anytime they want. That Sunday morning, it was a vacuum truck doing maintenance. The driver said he wanted to beat the heat and traffic for this. I was awakened at 5 a.m. Yesterday, August 1st, the smell came back with a vengeance a little before 4 p.m. Thunder could be heard in the distance, and everyone left the beach and went home to take showers, would be my guess, while the storage tank smelled. It is the time of day that it reeks the most, rendering my pool in the backyard unusable, along with any other outdoor activity, such as reading on the front porch. It is my understanding that the tank is from the last plant and is a storage tank to hold excess waste till the plant can process it. I texted Chris and Jay to come by and smell it for themselves and was ignored again. At least I was not called a liar again. I am concerned for my family's health and welfare. It is science that wastewater carries viruses and a host of other harmful stuff. I have read articles that COVID-19 can be detected in wastewater. I am concerned that an airborne virus such as COVID-19 escaping the storage tank. If I can smell the sewer gas to the point that it is giving me headaches, I am concerned that it can also infect me with COVID-19 and other illnesses. Something needs to be done about this. I have called DHEC and have a call into the DEP. I should be able to swim in my backyard or read a book on my front porch or cut my grass without the smelling of foul odors. I should not have to worry about catching some virus from the fumes escaping the storage tank. I should not be awoken at 5 a.m. on a Sunday. I should not be called a liar when I bring this up to the people in charge. I should not have to hire a lawyer to seek justice. I should have the same quality of life as the rest of the people living on the island. Again, I ask why is another plant being moved from Wild Dunes, where it is where it sits in an open area with no homes or businesses around it to suffer what I am suffering. The water company has been a very bad neighbor and acts above the law. I would not wish them on no one. Something needs to be done about sweeping it under the rug. It will not work. Second comment is from Sally Wiseman, 35 Fairway Dunes Lane. Number one, are the contents of the blue recycle and yellow garbage cans kept separated when the cans are emptied? Number two, are the trash cans supposed to be emptied at the end of the day, at the end of each day, or is there another schedule? Number three, what is the process, if any, when they are full/overflowing at nightfall? On June 20th, 2020 at 8:15 a.m., I photographed 6 yellow cans with trash overflowing onto the beach alongside other trash that visitors laid at the bottom of the cans. BSOs were on the scene for something else, but I asked them if they could report. BSO's response was essentially, yes, we saw it and we'll let them know, but it is the chunky chairs guy that's supposed to pick it up. The 6 yellow trash cans were in front of the WDR Grand Pavilion. Before asking the BSOs, I asked the WDR staff who were setting out chairs whether they could please report, and they said, and I quote, "It is a city issue." In addition, I saw these posted 7/17/2020 to the Isle of Palms Locals and Friends Face group, and my questions above are related. Quote, those large cylinder containers, trash goes in there. You can even put recyclables in the blue ones, close quote. Quote, no more, now more than ever, no one wants to pick up someone else's trash, close quote. Quote, I know, trash all around the cans, close quote. Quote, don't even bother sorting recyclables into the blue ones. The truck that comes by dumps all the barrels into the same dumpster, which makes it even easier for beach visitors to dispose of their garbage, close quote. Quote, I have seen this too. Susan Hill Smith, why does this happen, close quote. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I understand it is challenging and never-ending situation and likely related to overcrowding. Growth in the region is continuing to exacerbate the existing issues, and I believe these are canaries in the coal mine. And that ends the comments.
Great. Thank you, Nicole, for doing that. I appreciate that. And for the residents for sending us comments in. Next up, our department reports. Donnie and Robert, y'all want to run through y'all's monthly reports, please? And those are in your packet for committee members.
Yeah, I'll start for the month of, and we did not have the data for the month of June. So yeah, you can see that. If you have any questions of June, I'll be happy. But for the month of July, garbage was 415 tons. I will tell you that is a record since I've been Public Works Director. The previous high was 408, and that was pre-housing market crash. So it's very concerning with 5 packers. We've packed out. The option is, and I think it should be implemented, and it's under my direction, is to probably in this off season get with one of the condominium complexes and remove those backyard service for that particular complex and put in a commercial dumpster. It will increase the cost for the city. Doing it in-house, there's no cost other than the regular labor costs within my department. However, when you go to a commercial dumpster, the city pays for the dumping service. Each individual complex or business has to pay the user fee at the end of the year. So the cost would increase both for the city and for Seagrove condominiums. And I've been hesitant to try to do that. I could have done it many years ago, but you're trying to save every dollar you can for the city and the residents, those property owners. However, before you spend another $250,000 on another truck, it's time to make an adjustment, have them build a corral for the commercial dumpsters, in my opinion.
And Donnie, I think Seagrove is where you said you would attack first, right?
That's the very first one that I would, the very next one. We have done it many years ago at Mariners. There's been several that we've removed our cans as we grow up. can't grow out, but as we grow up, rather than increasing staff, there's a break point. It takes a lot of garbage service to equal $250,000 plus labor.
Yeah.
So I think now's the time, because it puts a lot of pressure on my 5 trucks packing out on Tuesdays and on Fridays. So
Donnie, what do you think? I've read a couple of articles around the country just talking about very similar issues where, there's so many people home and so many home projects that are going on. I mean, is that adding to this? Because, you assume we don't have the volume of tourists, that we would typically have.
So for me personally, I have not, I did do garbage the other day. I do see an increase in the amount of take home. So they're going to the restaurants, but they're taking it back, and then they've got all that disposable type food products
Gotcha.
going into the can.
Yeah.
So plus they're also cooking more at the house.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but the month of July, we were most everybody had tried to reopen full. So it was pretty much booked out, what I could see on short-term rentals as well as within the gates of Wild Dunes.
Yeah, I guess really you just have the hotel out here that wouldn't have been full. So yeah, Susan.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just curious about what the difference is for the user. I mean, you're targeting the condominiums clearly because they're high volume, but does the actual person using the garbage service, do they really notice what kind of difference is it to them?
So each business, and Seagrove would be, that homeowners association would be the business, would pay the cost. And here's how it works. The city receives one bill from the county for the user fee for the landfill. And then it's up to Debbie to determine that cost for each individual business. And then so we pay it, and then she bills out to each individual, whether it be the Dinghy or Seagrove, and it's billed out based on that. And it's based on the number of yardage of containers within there and how many times per week it's dumped. And that county sends that breakdown to her. So it's just a cost pass through, but it's more, that cost is in addition to their regular Charleston County tax bill.
Okay.
That you would get. Everybody gets a portion of your tax bill is for the landfill.
Donnie, just one question. I don't know if Councilmember Smith was also referring to the actual user, the person in one of these condominiums. Will they see any difference in their garbage service with that change?
No, we're on the Carolina Waste is on the island 6 days a week. So based on what we determine, whether they go 2 days, 3 days, or 6 days. But every time that dumpster is dumped, we pay a small fee, and ours is very small compared to market. However, if it's a third full and it's dumped, it's being charged as an 8 yard as far as the user fee. So it's up to each individual entity to monitor and consolidate those dumps to save them money. So if you just want it 6 days a week and you're getting a nothing in them, county's still charging you for 8 yards.
Okay.
So you got to balance with, okay, what does it really take to keep it where I want it? Number one, is it 1 day a week? Is it 3 days a week? Is it 3 days a week in the summer and 1 day in the winter, and do a winter schedule? And that would be up to that. In the Seagrove case, that manager to call me, everything has to go through the Public Works Department, and say, okay, I want it 3 days a week in the summer months, and I want it to, in September the 7th, I want to go back to once a week. And that saves them user fee dollars at the end. But that's up to them to come through me. Each business has to be the eyes, but it has to all come through me, because if they want it 6 days a week, we're paying $7, $8 per dump, but their user fee is going to be astronomical, and then they're going to scream at the end of the year. So they have to help manage.
Yeah, Susan, if I'm a Seagrove resident right now, it's in a corral and there may be 6 or 8 really small trash cans in there. So that's where I'm dumping my trash. Then it would just go to a big commercial type dumpster. I mean, if I'm a resident.
Okay.
And Donnie, I'm looking back at the data we had prepared for the outsourcing. So Seagrove has 44. Mariners Walk has 144.
44 units, you're asking?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm just looking at the data that we had prepared. Meredith Walk has 144. Why wouldn't we attack a bigger complex? Is Seagrove just easier to kind of be the next one off the list?
Because Seagroves has the 40 gallons as opposed to the 90 gallons.
Got it.
So if we're going to do something, the thing to do, because of those corrals, the doors on those corrals would not accept the 90 gallons. If you got to redo your corrals, now would be the time to just convert.
Got it.
Because you still got 415 tons you got to worry about if we pick it up.
Yeah.
Right now, the easier and more efficient would be for we to convert 90 gallons into your garbage.
Yeah.
Be a lot easier for us, but if you got to do it, you need to just do it commercially.
Yeah. Got it.
And accept.
Makes
And
sense.
it gives the Public Works Department a little bit more freedom and a less garbage, so we got more capacity for elsewhere.
Gotcha.
So
Susan.
the difference is really just boils down to who's taking it to the landfill, whether it's us or Carolina Waste
Yes.
instead. Okay, gotcha.
And it takes some load off of your people and your staff too, right, Donnie? Makes it a little more efficient.
Correct. It would decrease, so we wouldn't have to go into that complex.
Right.
And that's also what they consider backyard service. So as this island grows up and trying to stay within the capacity of the fleet that I have, those are the decisions you got to make. You don't want to spend unnecessary tax dollars, but there's a point in time where it outweighs adding another CDL driver and adding a truck to a fleet for 11, 12 weeks. And it's just not, I can't see it.
Right,
I mean,
right.
because we all just know, everybody knows we got to worry about 13 weeks a year. The rest of the year, we're good. So, but that 13, you got to go with the worst case scenario. And if you're at 415 tons, and you know that I don't think I could have put another garbage can in July. I mean, we were packed out.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I stand is
Okay. Thank you.
looking out down the road at the future.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
All right. Yard debris was up a little bit. But there's a lot, every year, 4th of July is week, there is no yard debris or miscellaneous. So every year, Public Works struggles from the week of the 4th through Labor Day, because you're always then 1 week back. So, and I'm down one driver. So debris was already cut in half. So there's debris out there. It's not how I like it. But the residents are being very patient with Public Works. However, we struggle every year. I did run a shift this past Saturday, which was the 1st, for yard debris to try to get caught up. I think we're in a manageable level right now. However, you can't wait till Labor Day once you get past July 4th week to get really the island like the residents come to be normal. And it's, you know, I stress over that debris sitting out there. I did reach out to the county, but see if they could come assist us, but they didn't have any resources. But we ran a Saturday shift, and I think with the exception of what I consider Old Forest Trail, we're back on par.
Very good. Susan?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I saw the guys out there on Saturday, and from what I saw and what others I saw shared on social media, people were very appreciative. In fact, I saw several comments. Voice of support for Public Works specifically, for the job that you guys were doing. So just wanted to pass that along. There were on my particular street, there's still some big piles out, but it's more like construction projects that I think probably skirt the line of whether they should be removing them themselves. But
So those
yeah.
two miscellaneous piles, they're on schedule for this week. There's two of them
Okay,
on
great.
23rd.
Yeah.
And we have to get a flatbed available, but I needed to get the
Okay.
debris up first. It's two different landfills, so you can't mix
Oh,
it.
okay. Gotcha.
So it's got to be separated. But yes, we're aware of the two on 23rd. We took a flatbed load of miscellaneous this morning at 6:30.
Super.
We'll do debris all day, and at the end of the day, we'll get another load of miscellaneous, which will be 23rd and I think 29th.
Well, just to pass along, you've got fans out there who are really appreciative.
Rusty, you got a question?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was a comment and mostly a comment. I mean, I agree with Susan. I mean, there's a lot of very well pleased people in what you're doing. You out there, Donnie, in regards to the pickup. And I also agree too that, you know, the Old Forest Trail area there, that's still kind of an issue. I was riding through there yesterday with my golf cart. I noticed that there is a lot of not only just the yard debris, but it looks like there, you know, people have replaced fences and things like that. And I guess right now there's a lot of at-home projects being done. So that's creating a little more debris too, whether it's trimming of trees or replacing fencing, that sort of thing. So I know it must be putting a stress on your folks to get that picked up on a timely basis.
Well, I will tell you, the Old Forest Trail at the Oak Tree where the road splits,
Yes.
that would be pile number 3, that size at that location within the last 2 weeks. And that
Right.
pile is probably 2 flatbed loads. So we've pulled about 6 trucks just from that one area.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Thank you, Donnie. Good stuff. What else on your monthly report?
I went over the shift of debris, and just a side note, the administrator and I have been monitoring this debris situation. She asked me to ask the county. I've been keeping her up to date because we were one employee short. And I told her up front a while back that I was nervous about the debris and that we may possibly have to run overtime, and she was all for it. And she's been keeping up with the debris status really on a weekly basis, asking me where we are. And like always, wanted to do a Saturday earlier. My problem with Saturday work is the efficiency because of the traffic. But working in the middle of the island, there's not quite as much traffic. There is traffic en route to Bees Ferry. So efficiencies go down on Saturdays, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Donnie,
Yes.
I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about what we've also been talking related to the beach. It's very concerning to me how much, debris is left on the beach nowadays. Tents and chairs. I was coming in one day and I saw the flatbed returning from the beach, and it was packed to the top, and it's very disturbing. And I don't know, obviously with messaging and educating the public, but I'm trying to wrap my head around what options are available to the city and what we can propose to the committee, because it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that people just leave, and sometimes they're in very great condition. And it sounds, I think it's historically people who come for the day and maybe are returning back home and don't want to carry that, with them, and they just leave it on the beach. And it's just very disrespectful. And I'm very annoyed by it. So I have been talking to Donnie about it and trying to figure out what we could do. But I wanted to bring that up because I know that you all get the complaints as well, and it's been an issue that we've been seeing. But I think in the past few weeks, it's been exacerbated. I would think, and maybe it's visually. I don't know in terms of the tons and measuring it that way, but it's a lot.
Yeah, Susan.
Thank you. Totally agree. It's actually not new though, because we were talking about this last year. We had truckloads and truckloads around the middle of the summer with all of these chairs. And I've been made aware since then that this is a bigger issue also with the rental companies, real estate management. They're left with people who leave these behind in the houses as well, renters who get chairs and then decide, they're not going to take them back with them if they flew with, especially. And so the rental companies have an abundance of leftover chairs and umbrellas as well, I think. So we do need to wrap our head around what potential solutions could be. Maybe other beach communities have some ideas. I'm not sure if we talked about trying to have a place where we could offer them to be reused for other people, some kind of sharing, especially for chairs that are in totally good shape. I'm not sure, but we definitely need to do some brainstorming about it. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
One comment there to Desiree's point and Susan's about the abundance of chairs and tents on the beach. The one thing that everyone could do would be do not put a broken tent in the yellow barrels. So that alone is a inefficiency for both the contractor and for Joe, who, when he runs the beach, if it's in the barrel, he's got to pull it out because that takes up all the capacity of the small garbage. And those things can't go in the white hopper anyway. So it's got to be pulled out, put on the side. That's got to be scrapped as scrap metal. And it can't fill up John's hopper. Otherwise, he can't even clean the beach. So the key is do not put it in the barrel, put it beside the barrel. And we service the beach 3-4 times a week to try to clean that stuff up. That's one thing. So if you see Desiree saw the truck that came off the beach the other day, just imagine doubling that for the long beach chairs and umbrellas that are put out as miscellaneous on the street side at the right of way on Wednesdays that Joe has to pick up. So whatever you see coming off the beach, double that coming off the streets.
That's crazy. Well, and just one more follow-up comment in regard to the beach trash. As it was read from the letter that I was tagged in that particular social media exchange, and I tried to remember, I feel like we had a previous conversation about this last year with John, our contractor, about the recycling. And my understanding was essentially he pretty much can't use a lot of recycle a lot of the recycling because it becomes contaminated with regular trash. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, you're correct, Susan. But it was not John's decision. That was the Charleston County Recycle Trucks decision that that empties his recycle bin, and there was so much contamination, they said, we are not coming back. It's too much contamination. And so when John runs a recycle run, or if there's a recycle bin full and he's running a garbage run, he knows that it's all garbage because Charleston County recycle stopped. So and now John has to actually, when it first started, Charleston County picked it up free of charge. The contractor is responsible for paying for those dumps. So now John's cost has went up because everything is now going to the landfill, and Carolina Waste has to do it. And then in his contract, he has to pay that, not us. So his cost went up because of Charleston County Recycle's decision that there was too much contamination.
So is he even bothering with a separate recycle run? I mean, should we even have blue cans out there to suggest that we're doing recycling?
So hopefully one day we can get it under control. However, there's still the same number of cans. And if you eliminate the blue cans, you're just gonna have to add more yellow cans.
Okay.
Right? So it's still the same number of cans have to be serviced the same number of days. Actually, he's probably servicing the blue cans more often, knowing that there's garbage, and he's not going to let it overflow. And
Okay.
Speaking of the comment, so in his contract, just so everyone knows, his work week starts on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So Tuesday and Wednesday is his weekends. That being said, he also is required to only service the beach one time per day based on the tide. So if it was 6 o'clock in high tide, then he was not running that beach. I don't know, and I did not go back and look, but he's not required to have the beach empty by every morning. It's just once per day for those 5 days. Now, if he tells me, look, I think we need to run an extra shift or an extra day, and during the week of the 4th, it was 7 days a week. Yeah, and of course I approve it because what we don't want is garbage everywhere. But from time to time, if you have a big group at Grand Pavilion and they are there late in the evening and they do overflow, it's the contractor's responsibility to get it that one day that day, but it doesn't have to be that morning. It could be at low tide, whenever, as long as it's completed in that day. I hope that clarifies some of that.
Thank you, Donnie.
That's all I have. And
All right, Rusty, you got one more?
Yeah, just real quick. In regards to, umbrellas in the cans and that sort of thing, I don't know that there's much we can do to even manage that. I mean, we're going to have that happen anyway, particularly during the high season. It's regrettable that it does happen, but it does. So that's going to continue to be an issue, I think. Donnie, do you find the distribution of the discarded items pretty much just in certain locations, Front Beach, Grand Pavilion, that sort of area, or is it all up and down the beach? You find it
Naturally, the areas that are more crowded would have more discarded items, but it's up and down. If you have short-term rentals that would prefer tents as opposed to renting an umbrella, and they flew in, they're going to leave the tent, and we found good $200 tents just left out there because they can't fly it home with them.
Well, I would
Same thing with coolers.
Yeah, I suspect most people, if they drive in or whatever, they still come down and they bring their necessities with them, a lot of groceries and that sort of thing in particular. And then they also, when they run by one of the shops, they pick up the chairs, the tents, and all those other items are going to need during the week. And it's just a lot easier to just discard it afterwards and not even attempt to try to load it into their vehicles to go back home. So I think that's historically been an issue too. By the way, I want to apologize a little bit. I froze up on the screen a few minutes ago, so I didn't catch all of your response, Donnie. But But anyway, I'm now having that Wi-Fi issue we talked about earlier.
Well, it's 13 weeks we have to deal with every year.
Yeah.
Right.
Very
All right.
quickly, the vehicle maintenance, Chair, you can
You
see.
nailed your number, Donnie. I mean, you were right on top of it, man.
Well, there's in July, there's not a lot going on because we're picking up garbage and 415 tons. You don't have time for maintenance. So basically, there's not a lot of money spent. And now I'll turn it over to Robert and I'll mute.
All right, Donnie, thank you very much. Good conversation. Robert?
Yes. Okay, so this was SCDOT's quarter to come down to the island. So we have pipe cleaning with the hydrovac from 21st to 25th on Palm Boulevard. And then they also did ditch reconstruction on 21st to 25th Palm Boulevard. Kind of highlighted that area because over the last couple rain events, those oceanfront houses were flooding in the driveways. They took a lot of debris out of there, so they look really clear all the way through to 25th. They also shored up the emergency beach path there because the sides were kind of washing in. They put ROC in, so now there's a wider path for emergency vehicles to get through. They also had the back truck down on 2206 Hartnett, cleaning that ditch. They also did ditch reconstruction on the house before that at 2204 Hartnett. And then just real quick to keep with SCDOT, I've also generated a list for them and submitted it for all the damage that happened on the right of way on Palm Boulevard with visitor parking, cars getting stuck. So that's over at DOT. Whether that's a pretty fix or they're going to come through, smooth the ruts, put material down, it's yet to be seen. So we'll have to see when that happens. Charleston is still working on Charleston County stormwater, reviewing plans with new construction. So every time a house is being built, I go to the site, check to see if there's stormwater ditches, are they going to put in pipes? And if they are, review the plan that they're doing everything to code. Focused on facilities a little more this past month because with air conditioning, pumping, we've had to do a new return line at Public Works, City Hall, also working on the current elevator contracts for all the buildings. We've had our LLR elevator inspection and scheduled the repairs for all the city elevators. We've been doing, keeping up with Morgan Creek Grill. We had to do landscape cleanup there and also doing weekly checks of the building to make sure that there's no damage to it. Nothing happens while it's not being occupied. Little basic repairs here in City Hall, repair of railing, same thing, just air conditioning repairs. We've been managing the parking lot and at least having once a week have one of our crew members from Public Works clean the parking lot of trash. They'll go down Front Beach. We have the cleaning contractors that are in the bathrooms and they're responsible for cleanup of the grass area in front of the restroom. So they've been keeping up with that. A few little hiccups with staffing, but we managed to get through that. But the restrooms are functioning fine. We do the maintenance of Palm Boulevard on the opposite schedule of when we have our contractor do maintenance on Palm. And then I've also gone through with Pleasant Places, who was our new contractor for the landscaping, just a second go around to highlight some spots that they may have missed that they were unaware of. And just so you know, we're going to have the palm tree pruning that's going to start at 21st Avenue and go all the way to Breach Inlet. That's on a 3-year cycle. So this is they've been 3 years out. Those palms really need to be done. And that's by our contractor, not Dominion. And then we've also started a safety team meeting with Winnett and also the other departments, PD, fire, and recreation, to kind of go through every building, point out some of the deficits some of the buildings have as far as safety is concerned. And then we just wrapped up our Isle of Palms EOP meeting. I think that was last week. And outside of that, I think that's about it.
Hey, Robert, you mentioned Pleasant Places. So far, so good with them, or what's your feedback?
Yes, I mean, I think with every new contract, you're gonna have to point out areas that are of a concern that they may have missed. You know, it's a new crew down here. Very responsive though. Phone calls are always answered. They'll reach out to me before I get to them. So I think this last go around, we kind of pointed out a bunch of areas and they really attacked it good. So I think we're in a good way. And like I said, as time goes on, I didn't expect them to be up and running and everything to be perfect right from the get-go. But I feel as we keep moving forward that, you know, with COVID, we left a lot of stuff. We didn't plant flowers this year. You know, we cut back on the budget. We didn't want to do all those things, not knowing what was going to happen. So they were kind of left with a little bit of a mess. And then our past contractor kind of just dropped the ball right before 4th of July. So they had a little bit of work to catch up on.
Okay, great. Rusty, you have a question?
Yeah, quick question. On the palm tree pruning, Robert, that's done by the contractor that we hired, do they clean up behind themselves or do they just pile that up and then we clean up behind them?
You can respond to that, Donnie?
Yeah. So originally, the answer was yes. They have not increased their price. So about 7 years ago, in order for me to keep that budget amount the same, Public Works said, look, we'll try to do it after the twice a week garbage, but Public Works will pick up the palm fronds. You just cut them, and that kept me at my same price, which is about $18 a tree, as opposed to 35 was the next
Okay.
lower. So I'm trying to keep the costs down, and you know, if Public Works can manage and keep that cost at for the same contract, and you can see it, we haven't increased that contract since it started. And we divided it up many years ago into group of three, cut the island in 3 sections rather than naturally we would like to have them all done every year. However, budget wise, it takes 3 years to get around. And I think, does it look fantastic? No, in certain sections, but I think it's manageable at a 3-year cycle, that we're not too far behind.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Susan?
Thank you. I'll also say I'm having some freezing issues. So if I suddenly fade out of the conversation, that might be why. But as far as this palm tree pruning from Breach Inlet to 21st, forgive me if you said this, that's just for aesthetics, or it's not related to any kind of hazard issue? Is that right?
No, aesthetics only. It's no hazard. Last
Okay.
year was the 42nd through 57th. So now we're back up. And that would include those palm trees right here in front of City Hall. It's the Planapalm, Susan. So all of the Planapalms, and we spend roughly $8,500 per year on palm tree pruning.
Does that come out of the tree fund?
No, that's budgeted,
No.
right, Desiree?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I just wanted to also mention that Robert's been very vigilant at monitoring the restaurant building at the marina. And, you know, going in there, we had at one point an issue of somebody getting inside the building through one of the doors. So we had to screw some of the doors back in, and it gave us a little bit of a headache a couple of weeks ago, but I think we got it under control. So we're hoping that we can get this lease done and we can start construction in that building. But that's also something that Robert's been working on, and I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, it looks better, Robert. Thank you. Yeah, Rusty?
Yeah, I was talking to one resident yesterday on the phone, and he happened to mention that he knew of someone, one of the young person, not a small child, but I don't know, maybe middle school age, was over in Morgan Creek Grill, the old property there, fell and scraped themselves up pretty bad. But I guess where I'm going is, do we have this Isle of Palms PD kind of patrol through there pretty regularly? And if they see someone out there, would they stop and just ask them to leave that part of the property?
Yeah, they do. And also Brian there again, and the marina operator will always, also keep an eye out on the area, and will notify me if he sees any issue, and we'll immediately send somebody over to either fix the fencing or to supervise and monitor and ask people to, vacate the area.
All right.
Yeah. Susan?
Yep. Thank you. And there was a moment when it was looking a little bit ragged, and so I'm glad that it's back up to speed over there by the restaurant. And otherwise, just thank you for all that you're doing. This laundry list is incredible, and you guys are obviously staying very busy.
Every month, that laundry list looks good. Donnie and Robert, thank you guys.
Good job.
That's like a
Thank
world
you.
record. Donnie, 45 minutes for the monthly report. Good work. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Next item is old business. Desiree, you want to give us a quick update on phase 3 drainage and the small internal projects? I know we've had some progress there in the last 30 days or so.
Yes, so for the small drainage projects, you recall that council approved the change order last month for Thomas and Hutton to take over the bidding and construction admin of those 5 projects. They're working on the bid package. That'll be done in about 40 days. And they're estimating that the construction timeline would be between 60 and 90 days, so 3 months. And we're working with them about to try to identify the best timing of when that work would need to happen. Obviously, my answer was as soon as possible. So we're working on that to try to get that done before the end of the year, hopefully. So that's with the small projects. The phase 3 drainage, the Thomas and Hutton and their team are focusing on the work related to the mitigation project. As you all know, the 41st Avenue ditch, those improvements happen beyond the critical area. So that would require the city conducting some sort of mitigation or paying some credits to that fund. So they're conducting this, cost benefit analysis of what mitigation project is available to us. There's one that's been identified, and they're working on that one, and also maybe a plan B if that one would not work, and also identifying if that project is within Wild Dunes doesn't work as a mitigation project, then what would be the cost to the city in paying for those credits. So a little bit of progress on that. We still don't have any full permits yet. As you all know, we were expecting that by the end of this year. So that's all I have on that update.
Okay, great. Thank you. Questions for Desiree on that at all? Next item was discussion of outsourcing household garbage collection services. This was left over from a couple of meetings ago. We've got a little bit of data that we're still waiting on to complete the spreadsheet. Debbie's out this week on well-deserved vacation. So, and there's a laundry list of assumptions that Debbie and Donnie and Robert all put together around getting to the numbers, if you will. So I want to, maybe next meeting, Desiree, we can spend a little bit of time with, if Debbie can join us and kind of walk through the assumptions.
Yeah.
Just to make everybody up to speed. Yep, sorry, go ahead.
So what I was going to say is that we are trying to get as much and as many numbers as possible from these contractors, but sometimes they will hesitate to provide those numbers outside of a competitive proposal process. Obviously, they want to make sure that they do their homework before they give us a flat number, because it's ultimately they want to be accountable to that. So we're having a little bit of trouble getting those numbers just informally. We'll continue to work on that, and like you mentioned, we have some sort of assumptions, and we have the contract from Sullivan Island, and we can use that as sort of a base. But I think that the preliminary numbers that we have received from both of these companies that provide these services are higher than what they charge Sullivan. So I don't want us to have a false sense of security using their numbers when just informal numbers are higher than that. So we'll continue to chug along and try to get as much information as possible, but it might be difficult to get a real accurate numbers for an accurate analysis unless we go out for, we issue a full-on proposal.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll continue to do some work, and Donnie has been great at, getting some numbers from these companies, but we don't have a whole lot to present today.
Yeah, nope, and I knew that. So we'll just keep this on. And like I say, maybe next meeting, we can spend more time on the assumptions that Donnie, you and Debbie had gotten to, and just to make sure we're all grounded at a good spot. So thanks for your work on this one as well. Donnie, anything to add there? Or are you good?
No, I think we can discuss it next month.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you again for your efforts there. So moving to new business, discussion of development of a cutting agreement between the city and Dominion Energy ahead of the next tree trimming cycle. I think we discussed this at Ways and Means and Council, if I remember right. You'll remember, and Ron, if you don't mind putting up the fund balance and maybe the overhead lines, the conversations around looking at this was to have some conversations with Dominion prior to the next cutting and have some strategy around how do we use this NSS balance monies and some strategy around the tree trimming. And Ron, if you'll also go to the sample one you had gotten from Charleston, if you don't mind, the sample agreement. So just for the committee and everyone's purpose, this is a tree cutting agreement between Dominion and City of Charleston, or County of Charleston, I guess, actually. So this just gives you an idea of what an agreement could look like. I mean, they have different needs, obviously, than we do, but so I think, there's been a lot of conversations with mayor and others and the Stop Dominion crowd to put one of these in place for IOP. And again, I think part of it to me is just being more proactive with regard to conversations with Dominion, putting a strategy in place around a tree trimming agreement if we want to go down that path, and also, the use of these funds that Dominion has out there for us. Ron, thank you. You can go back to full screen if you don't mind. So Desiree, I don't know if you have other comments you want to add to that before we open up for discussion and comments, please.
Yes, I think we're talking about two different but related issues. One is how can we start developing a plan document that attempts to, provide a planning document for the city when it comes to undergrounding utility lines. It's not a simple conversation. It's not always the most ideal thing to do in some locations. So one is, how do we better use those funds that are available to the city through the non-standard service agreement, and pursue projects that are eligible, such as undergrounding utility lines. The other thing to me is, how do we better plan for the next tree trimming cycle? It's a tough balancing act because the state statute is basically on the Dominion side, allowing them to have some flexibility and authority to maintain their power lines. But I think if we proactively develop a plan and some standards that both the community, the city, and Dominion Energy agree to, then we can be better prepared for next time. I think that there's an opportunity to improve the communication between Dominion Energy, the city, and the community about what to expect when this is coming, rather than a month ahead of the tree trimming. Hey, we're coming, and this is the map that we're going to be trimming, and so the standards, and everybody's like, wait a minute, what is going on? Obviously the work seems excessive for a lot of folks. So whether it's the city doing this through a cutting agreement, and we have some time, if their next cycle is in 5 years, that we have some time to either work with a certified arborist that could represent the city's interest and provide some advice, and with Dominion Energy, so that we avoid the ruckus that, is that a word? That that we had this past year. So I think it's proactive. I think it's good for the city to move in this direction, and just improve the whole process for us. So I'm totally in favor of working with them collaboratively in this endeavor.
Yeah, and I think Desiree, to your point, there are definitely two different issues, but very related. And to me, again, it's just about being proactive and having a better relationship with Dominion and increasing our communication efforts with them. So, Susan.
One thing that I think we need to look at that Dominion brought up in our discussions already is that there's a second grouping of trees that were not removed, but are clearly going to become issues within the next 5 years. And so that may be one of the first things that we really want to tackle and focus on, whether it's worth trying to start a plan for transplanting those trees, or how to best handle that and how expensive that could be and what all that requires. And then otherwise I agree that these are definitely good proactive steps to take in working with Dominion on both issues. I noticed in the city of Charleston, a very extended agreement that they had created a committee specific to the issue, I think was it underground power lines, undergrounding? I don't know if that's something that is necessary, or if maybe this is an issue that the planning commission could become engaged with as well. We've already asked them to look at what we're doing with our tree fund. Maybe this is something we could enlist their help with, or possibly consider creating a specific committee around this.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for a citizen advisory board. That's something that council has been trying to advocate and create opportunities for members of the community to become more involved. Certainly, I think it's a great project for that. To your point, Susan, about the next round of the next cycle of tree removal, that's particularly palmettos and palm trees. And we've looked into the cost for transplanting those, and it's almost 3 times as much as just planting a new palm tree. So that's the complication with trying to replant the ones that they remove. But yeah, we can certainly look into that, because that will be the next opportunity to work with Dominion Energy, rather than in 5 years for the oak tree trimming, but the palmetto removal.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, good point. Yeah, so I'm hopeful on this, that our efforts will not go wasted. The interesting part, and we've all started hitting on some of this. I mean, you start peeling back the onion, and it is very complicated on where you might want to underground, where you might not want to underground. The cost associated with underground is astronomical. So that fund balance might put one pole underground, and that's about it. So we're just gonna have to be realistic in our expectations around this topic, and it's not a short-term fix by any stretch. So, Rusty.
Yeah, when we went partially underground, on the island, how was that funded in the past? Do we know? I mean, we've got areas. I know my area right here is all underground. Most of Forest Trail is underground. Was it post Hugo, Hurricane Hugo, and all that went underground? Does anyone know? And how was that funded?
That's a great question. I don't know. Donnie, do you have I don't know if the city participated in some capacity, or if that was just all Dominion Energy.
So the Forest Trail undergrounding was SCE&G, and no dollars, or my recollection is no dollars from the city. The section of the subdivision at 6th Avenue and Ocean and Carolina, there's a section right there that the residents pooled their money together with the money from the SCE&G folks, and they undergrounded way back right after Hugo. Right. So there's a smorgasbord of different groups or different sections of the island. Some were done via whatever SCE&G did to Forest Trail to get it. And that's what I know of it.
I should remember, we lived here during Hurricane Hugo, so, but I really don't remember how part of it got underground and what didn't, but I'm almost certain it was post Hurricane Hugo. So there may be, there's just all that to say is there may be some other way to source some funds or grants or whatever. I mean, to try to get something going that helps alleviate the cost, and then step by step, try to get more of this underground in place,
Yeah.
Phased in over time.
Well, and I think that's the plan. Rusty, to me, it's about, everybody wants to underground everything. There's some strategy work to say, where does it make sense to attack first? And you put an order of priority in so that you could, attack it as opposed to just being very reactive to this. So, Susan?
I was just going to say the same thing. And Dominion had also indicated that we need to be strategic and that there's more value to adding underground in some spots than others.
Yeah,
A
definitely.
lot of factors to weigh. As far as next steps, should we be leading towards creating some kind of committee to work with this, or is this something that we wanted to discuss right now, or where are we headed?
Yeah, I think Desiree and I have had a little bit of conversation about this. Our year so far has been primarily budget focused, but I'm open to just about anything. I think I'd love for Desiree and I to be able to spend some time and maybe come up with a plan, Susan. Desiree, if you're okay with that, maybe bring it back to this committee and decide, does it go to Planning Commission, which I think is a good idea. Does it go to an advisory board, which would be made up of, I think not just citizens, but I think you'd have to have planning and city council and somebody on this committee and public works and such. So I'm open to other suggestions, but I'd love for Desiree and I just to spend some time together and come back with a plan personally.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
And I wanted to mention, if I may, Rusty, to your comment about who funds what. It's very interesting. There are different scenarios and different funding schedules that other communities have developed. Like, for example, City of Charleston, Dominion Energy will fund 50% of the cost. The city will fund 35%, and then the residents in that area adjacent to where the undergrounding will happen would have to come up with the rest, with the other 15%. But I think we all agree that even the money that's available to the city through the non-standard service agreement, it won't be enough to cover that. So, there could be some collaboration even with the community members that really want it, and it's advised that it happens within their street, that the city could also consider.
Well, I know Dominion had mentioned also that just going underground doesn't completely solve the problem either, because it's more prone to outages and flooding. I know that's an issue. Personally, I haven't seen that, but it's where I live. But I guess there have been issues that way. But it really is something I think that we, just for the aesthetics and everything else on this island, it would be great if we really make some good progress on underground utilities.
Yeah, Susan.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting we've been talking about this in the context of trees, but there are a lot of reasons why we might want to underground. But also, to Rusty's point, there may be some areas where we are more at risk of having issues with undergrounding, and that all falls into the strategic nature of making our decisions of where we start.
Yeah.
Right.
Good conversation. So Desiree, you and I can take a shot at coming up with an initial plan to let this crowd opine on, if you're good with that.
Yeah, we can have something ready for September.
Okay. Last item under new business, discussion of section 325C of the Code of Ordinances related to leaves and grass clippings. Donnie, I know you had this one added on the agenda and had some resident feedback. So you want to, or Desiree, whoever wants to take this one?
Yes, I asked for this to be added about every 2 years. Need to go over with those that are on the committee about how Public Works is designed and debris operations. So, and it was, there was a complaint from Fairway Dunes. However, and Ron's just put this up. So my debris operations are like this. We use the IT-14G for these huge piles of yard debris, limbs, bagged leaves. And so as this heavy piece of equipment comes, and a lot of times in truck 22, which is 31-yard garbage packer. We literally load those big, large piles into that packer. The operator and the driver on the back operating the back of that machine, while the IT-14G and the operator put it into the hopper. That being said, the way Public Works is designed right now is loose leaves and grass clippings are to be bagged. So once that pile is cleared, there is some, and there was 2 photos from this 35 Fairway Dunes that showed what was left there was like the small dust and small leaves. And the way Public Works is designed now is homeowners need to bag that loose limbs and leaves, and then next go around, Public Works will pick up those bags. And the complainant was saying, you know, it would take only 3 minutes. So if you could imagine Public Works staff at 3 minutes per pile and 100 piles a day, that's 300 minutes of efficiency gone for sweeping up. We would never, if you think we're behind now, we would definitely be behind if we're have landscapers. Now, if the city wants to hire a staff to come behind the trucks and do that cleanup, but we're designed right now to pick up the stuff, the homeowners inside the gate and outside the gate of Wild Dunes, they got to go back and clean up the small stuff, bag it. Next go around, we'll pick it up. That's kind of how it's operated. And about every 2 years, I have to go through this scenario so that everybody really understands what's going on.
For
That's
us
all I have.
newbies. Yeah.
Yes.
Fair enough. And so how do we, I wonder how we get that message out? Because, you know, until you brought this code section up, I mean, I certainly wasn't aware of it, to your point, being on the new side. So I wonder how we message that. I mean, that's a delicate message, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not one for messaging. That would be Ron and Desiree.
Rusty.
Oh.
Well, I think a good place to start is we have the Isle of Palms social media site. I mean, why not place it out there, remind everybody that it needs to be bagged.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, the problem is if it's as large piles, I mean, the small piles that homeowners are doing, or even landscapers, they're bagging it. But these large piles, when we come upon these large piles or medium-sized piles that we have to use the tink bucket and we grab it, naturally some of those dried leaves are going to fall on the side. And if we were to stop and carry brooms and sweep, there's no way in the world we could get 7 miles with what the staff that I have.
Yeah.
And they just
Susan.
they got to be understanding of that.
Yeah. Susan.
I think there's, like Rusty was saying, there's room on social media and maybe on a little bit more on the website, if it's not clear on the website about what the proper way is to put out the yard waste and clippings. And the police department has certainly this year added a touch of humor in some of these public service announcements of what's the right way and the wrong way of doing things and what's not allowed. So maybe take a page from some of the things that they've been doing with and adding a light touch to it might be helpful.
Yeah, fair. Desiree, anything you want to add to this conversation? No. Donnie, anything else? That's a
I
good.
think it's a great idea. We have some pictures that we can share. And whenever we Donnie sees that it's becoming an issue, we can do a little bit more of a concerted effort at putting the word out and through social media. And we'll take a look at the website and see where we can maybe emphasize that information a little bit better.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. Miscellaneous business. Our next meeting is 8 a.m. Thursday, September 3rd. Hard to believe we're already talking about a September meeting. No executive session needed. Motion to adjourn, if nothing else.
Oh, I
Second.
so move.
Rusty, second. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank
Have a
you.
Bye.
Same to you.
Take care. Bye-bye.